begin by thanking you for being here. And
Great honor. So
it's a great honor for me too.
I've been really excited.
We got you. It was really incredible to watch this with an audience, and to kind of have flashbacks of like me watching it as a kid, like certain moments that you're just like, whoa, I don't know what that's called. But
I
it's
get those too when I watch
for
it.
sure in a different way. So you sat through tonight and you watched it. What do you think about it when you look at it now? Because some of the people in the series who had films come out in the 90s, they're able to have some distance, whereas the newer filmmakers are like, I'm not watching this movie in the theater, I'm not going to do it. But I know your film's also very personal, so.
Yeah, it's so personal. It's always a little bit emotional because it is me, and it is like, you know, just putting it all out there, you know, and it's such a creative expression of that period in my life, which was really a struggle. And so, you know, over the years it changes when I see it. I didn't watch it for a long time. I was glad that it was hard to find. I was glad that I could just kind of live a normal life and raise kids, and people weren't coming up to me and talking about gift because I needed to distance myself. And now I'm in a place where I can really appreciate it a lot more and see the greatness of it, you know. And it's really a special treasure.
It really is a special treasure. Jessica, I'm assuming you're like a lot of us and have the VHS tape.
I didn't, but I watched it at other people's houses all the time.
And so, was that your entry point into Casey's work?
I mean, I understood Casey as a filmmaker and director from watching MTV, really, as a young teenager, and being so excited just to see, you know, a woman's name credited.
Yeah.
And it was hugely important for me as someone, as a young, you know, 15, 16, 17-year-old person, to see a woman credited for her vision and her work. And it still is.
I still get excited for that. When I see it.
It's funny because I didn't really have that awareness when I was making art and film, thinking that that it was, at that time in my life, I didn't really understand what a big deal it was. And I wasn't really a feminist. I was just such a girly girl that made art. And I didn't really, people would say like, how hard is it for you as a woman? And I'd be like, well, I don't know, it's not that hard, but I see it so differently now. I do see, I look back and I've learned so much. I see my path, and I see the struggle, you know, the challenges that women do have and still have.
Going back to the very beginning, you know, what was the germ of the idea, the genesis of doing this project with Perry?
In our house, we had to have like a job, and Perry's job was to make music, and my job was to do everything else, to make art and to make film, and so you know, we kind of started. I had no experience in filmmaking, so I took a class at LA City College, and you know, I had my Super 8 camera. And I learned really basics of filmmaking, you know, just like kind of how to, you know, cut film, and just, you know, it really, you know, our entry level experience. And then we made Soul Kiss, which was a 20-minute dance video. And I did all the art for it, all the graphics, and, you know, and just, you know, that's kind of where our quirkiness, our quirky style, and just kind of having a sense of humor about it, and really showcasing the band, giving them kind of personalities, and, you know, in addition to great music, like, who are these guys? So we kind of, you know, played around with that. And then I just got the bug. I was like, okay, what are we going to do next? You know, we did a couple little come out. I had, I'll be really candid with you guys, I was really struggling with addiction, if you can't tell, by watching that movie, and I was in and out of rehabs a lot. So a lot of times when, you know, the band was on the road, I was in rehab, and there were times when I just would be up for days and days and days, and like, you know, couldn't sleep. And so I came up with this idea, which was the root of it, you know. And so when Perry got back from Troyes, I had this great idea. We're gonna make a movie, and this is what it's gonna be. And then he got excited, and we talked about it, kind of threw it around, and then we decided that he had Warner Brothers records in the palm of his hand at this point. You know, he could do no wrong. And so when, so the way, you know, he's the salesman, you know, he was the salesman, he could sell anything. So he's like, oh, you know, he just went to the label and said, this is what we want to do. Sorry, my mouth is dry because I get nervous. This is what we want to do, and we'll give you, you know, 4 music videos if you let us do this film. And so we didn't really have like anything written down, you know, we didn't have a script or anything. Which kind of remained like that, but you know, he was able to sell this idea, and so
which is kind of remarkable. I feel like there's not a lot of band, like kind of fictional films that came out. It was such a gem to discover, because you get VHS of like music videos, but this was like totally.
We wanted to do our Spinal Tap or something, you know, and you know. We just, you know, we're just laugh about different ideas. And we have so many characters, so many people in our lives that were interesting characters. And when you're kind of mixing with like the street crowd, you know, that's when you got to see, you know, some of the characters in the film. They were authentic street characters that, you know, once again, Perry had a really good way with words, so he could, you know, say, hey, you know, we're doing this movie. We kind of would like you to help us out, you know, and then we offer a little money or something. But we didn't really have a lot to offer at that point, you know.
Let's talk about those crazy cast of characters who, I mean, they're like seared into my brain. Like Marty, the manager, the Butter, and Mistress Kiki, and Nadine. Pizza guy.
Yeah, so Mistress Kiki, I met her in rehab. Most of the characters I met in rehab. Quite a few of them. But Mistress Kiki I met in rehab. And she really was a dominatrix. And we really were at her dominatrix dungeon. And that's where we shot. Harry made a deal with them, and we brought the crew in, and so yeah, so she was there. And then Marty V first was Jane's Addiction's manager. His name's Steve Nalloway. He's a great guy, and he's an all-around. He is a great guy. But he played a fictional. I guess he was based on a real person, and we changed the name. So he was playing a manager that had taken advantage of the band in the early days, and so we kind of, I guess, can I say anything?
Yeah.
He's a New Yorker, so somebody, you know, in the room might know him. His name is Gary Purpose, and we named him Marty Meat first. He took a lot.
And then we were talking, you and I talked before, we talked about the pizza guy, and he's a mystery. He's not here today, is he? We were really hoping he would just show up.
I put out an all points bulletin, and I still couldn't find him. I just really couldn't find him. I don't know what happened to him, but he was, so we had a producer, his name's Alan Wax, and he quit after Mexico because he got scared. He was like, I don't want to be responsible for this. You don't understand. You don't understand, it's crazy. And so, he had made a casting for a couple of parts. Robert, Pizza Guy was one, Pizza Dude. And then the two, my mother's friends from Bakersfield, they were cast. And I actually found one of them, I found her, the one with the New York accent, the dark hair, one that's like, maybe look at this, that one. She is, she's still alive, she's in her 90s, and I tried to get a hold of her, but I don't think she could see my message on Facebook. It went to like the other messages, so, you know, at a certain age, you just don't understand that stuff. But yeah, she's sharp as a tack, she's hilarious. And I found out, I was watching like a video she made during the pandemic, and she was talking about being sober, that she was 40 years sober, and I was like counting back, and I was like, oh my God, she was sober watching all this stuff that was going on. She must have thought we were like absolutely out of our minds, you know.
One of the things I was thinking when I was watching it this time was the scene in the rehab center. You know, the woman who says, "I'm dating," and that's.
And she was actually a really good friend of mine. I met her just through nightclubbing in Los Angeles. She was married to Alex Van Halen, and then well, they were divorced when I met her, but she had quite a trail of rock stars that she had relations with. But she was hilarious and really fun and Hungarian and really like great stories and stuff. And unfortunately, she chose to, you know, kind of live on the fringes of society. So nobody's seen her in many years.
Was that shot? That wasn't shot in a facility.
That was shot in a facility. So that was one of my favorite rehabs called Beverly Hills Medical. Like really good drugs, snacks. And then the John, the counselor, he was actually our counselor. Like I got Perry to go one time. I was like, you're gonna love it. It's really good custard, and they give you like a shot in your ass every 4 hours. So John was actually a real counselor, and he was the voice of the counselor. And then the other people were all from Venice Boulevard, right off of Venice Beach.
You know, as we're talking, I'm thinking about how funny this movie is. There's such a like sense of humor in it, either by like glances or the writing or, you know, funny gags with the woman having her like cervix exam in the background. And I enjoy it so much because some of the subject matter is quite intense, and you know, I know that you mentioned that there was not a script for this.
Yeah.
How did you did those come organically, or were you very conscious of the humor in it?
We were conscious to a certain point, but you never know what's going to come out of somebody's mouth, so you have to be able to kind of catch those nuances, funny moments, and capture them, you know. And so we had set up vignettes, like different vignettes, and we were like, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is how it's going to play out. I'm not an actress. I had to do it too, and it was really, a lot of times I just cringe when I watch it. I'm like, God, you know, it's not that easy to improv.
Yeah.
But, you know, people were pretty good at it. You know, everybody was pretty natural at it. So I always knew that I wanted to have that voiceover narrative.
Yes.
That was really important. That was always a part of the plan, because I felt like without that narrative, the story wouldn't really get kind of flow. And there was a movie parody I really liked called Lenny, and it was made by Bob Fosse, and it was about Lenny Bruce and his wife Honey. And a lot of that was on my mind when we made this, because like Dustin Hoffman played Lenny Bruce in that film, and his rhythm, the way he talked, his humor, his social commentary, all that stuff just kind of flowed. And I thought Perry could do that. That's very Perry to, you know, tell stories. He was a master storyteller, and he had that comedic kind of rhythm.
Yeah.
And he also had the heart, you know, and to tell the story. So and all the layers, but you know, I really felt like a honey Bruce character. I was more vulnerable, sweet, and more susceptible to like harm or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I want to shift and talk about the editing, which is very fascinating, I think, because you did the rough edit of the film, which I love the story of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the editing was done. It was an Avid cuts only editing system. I think it came out maybe a couple of years, right around the same time that we did this movie. And so all the film was shot in 16 millimeter, and then it was all transferred to tape. And then the editing system was a non-linear cuts only system, and we had 2 screens, and then I think there were like 4 decks, and then it was built into a road case, so we could travel with it. And so when the band was touring, we had, you know, in the back of the tour bus, we had this road case, and we could edit, you know, when we felt like it. And so I would do all the rough edits, you know, do all the rough edits, and then they would get sent to another editor. His name's Eric Sunbrennan, and he's a master editor. But at the time he was new, he'd never edited a film before.
Yeah, he edited Adaptation, Being John Malkovich, Her, you
Yeah.
know, like major stuff.
Yeah, and he ended up being this incredibly successful editor. And then I was like, hey, you want to do a music video? And he's like, busy. But he was, you know, he worked with me on Big Hot Stealing, and I think that was one of the reasons why it was so kick-ass.
Yeah.
He was just great at what he did, you know.
I want to ask a question that I think will involve you too. Do you know, like, I'm gonna phrase this. What do you think about the fact that you have made a cult classic? That's what I think. I think it was a security guard thing.
I was like, somebody's gonna answer for me. I don't know. What do you think?
Because it's not easy to do.
I mean, I'm not surprised that it has been as enduring as it is, and that so much of, I mean, all of Casey's work has been so enduring because of the time and place that it came and how it was ushered in, and that the band and the songs that all of it was attached to. For anybody who was paying attention, and particularly paying attention to what was happening in, like, you know, the American Underground, it was so phenomenally exciting, but also, you know, I talked about this on the episode of Dance Maker. Went deep on Habitual work, but that so much of what Casey was doing visually, but just also stylistically, and kind of like, you know, that banal, sexy, horror, jokey, fucked up things all clashing together, but also her visual style was so influential, and you can see it in so many things that came after, so much music video, because it was something that was just really exciting, but it was also, it just had such a particular vision and sensibility to it. And so I just think it just endures.
I think that's just being authentic, you know. I think you can't go wrong when you're really doing everything from the heart, even though it's a risk.
Did this have any theatrical screens?
Any what?
Any theatrical screens in cinemas? A couple?
We had one. I heard there were a few kind of scattered. There might have been more than that, I'm not sure. I know there was one in San Francisco, and then we had 5 nights at the Lemonade Five Theater in Hollywood, LA Hollywood area. And we had a Q&A the first night. I was super nervous, just like tonight. But yeah, those were the only screenings. We thought it was we kind of wanted it to be, kind of one of those like rock and roll movies that you want to see at midnight, always in the art house theaters and stuff. And I think Warner Brothers got scared and saw it for the first time. They were like, okay, it was kind of like pretend, let's just kind of hide it out here, and so it made it kind of hard to find. But I think that's maybe why it is a cult classic. It was so hard to find, and it's not, it just never became mainstream. It became a little treasure, and that made it more important. So somebody put a message on my Facebook, not Facebook, on my Instagram, and she was like, I keep mine in my fire vault. Yeah, or something.
You don't want to have to try to get it off eBay again.
No. Well, I've got mine all these years, and I think I got mine I grew up in South Florida, with a shitty mall, but it is and has always been a treasure.
And people are really proud when they have it. Everybody tells me, I have it. It's like every time I say anything online, I have my copy. I still have mine, and it's pretty cool. I'm not making fun of anyone. I think it's pretty cool.
I saw that you have made some music videos for your daughter, and I wanted to know how that feels to.
It feels great. I wish we had money.
Me too.
I know more. I mean, film is just a challenge for me because the financial aspects make it really hard. But I love doing fine art. I get a lot of satisfaction out of that, and I get to be alone, and I don't have to work with a group of people.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It's very solitary, and it's just nice. I enjoy just kind of getting into my head and making a piece, and I love sharing it with people. I used to be really afraid to share my art, and I'm just like, I need another one. Here it is.
It is a different interaction though when you make a film and an audience full of 200 people versus artwork, which can be a little bit more an intimate experience with somebody. Your artwork's incredible, really, really wonderful. And I'll plug. I just saw that you have a new print.
I do.
Yes.
I love it. I'm so proud of it.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to thank you again so much for being here and for being in this conversation with me and this film that means so much to all of us. And thank you for being here. And
thank you guys, and thank you, Jessica. I just really wanted her here because I have so much admiration for her. She's an incredible woman. She's a really huge advocate for women and all marginalized people.
I'm just here because you're us.
I know, I said, do you want to come with me? Because I'm kind of nervous. She's like, sure. Anyway, she's great. She's also a filmmaker, director. She does everything. I know, but I just
we'll do something later. We'll do screen with her. For you.
Yes.
Oh, I also want to mention, if you didn't see on the way in, we have special postcards that are outside the door. Please feel free to snag one for your collection, little goodies, gift goodies.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Cute.